Hey guys, welcome back to Ace Recaps. Today, I'm going to explain a 2017 psychological horror film titled Gerald's Game. Heads up, spoilers ahead, you've been warned. The movie begins with a couple named Jesse and Gerald, driving down a long empty highway. They are heading to a quiet vacation house, hoping a romantic weekend will help them reconnect. Their relationship has been falling apart, and Gerald believes spending time together will fix everything. While driving through the silent roads, they suddenly see a dog in the middle of the road, eating a dead animal. Gerald hits the brakes and honks loudly. The dog jumps back and walks away. Jesse feels bad for it, but Gerald just wants to keep driving. They finally arrive at their isolated lake house in Alabama, surrounded by trees and miles away from anyone else. As soon as they step inside, Gerald heads straight to the bedroom and takes a pill, already focused on his plans for the day. Jesse walks into the kitchen and opens the fridge, where she sees two expensive pieces of meat. She grabs one and goes outside, hoping to find the dog. Gerald walks out and sees her feeding $200 worth of meat to a stray she doesn't even know. He's annoyed, but he's too distracted by his romantic plans to say anything. Apparently saving their relationship costs less than feeding a random dog. They head back inside, and Gerald forgets to close the front door behind them. Jesse changes into a silk nightgown and waits on the bed. Gerald walks in with two sets of handcuffs, smiling. Surprised, Jesse hesitates but decides to go along with it, hoping it'll help their relationship. Gerald cuffs both her hands to the bedposts, leaving her helpless. Questionable couples therapy right there. He fills a glass with water and places it on the shelf above her. Then things turn weird. Gerald starts pretending to be some intruder who broke into the house, speaking in a creepy voice. He tells Jesse to scream because nobody can hear her out here anyway. At first, she tries to play along, but Gerald suddenly gets way too aggressive. He grabs her roughly and says disturbing things. Jesse yells at him to stop and unlock the cuffs, but Gerald calmly asks what she'll do if he doesn't. She realizes her husband might have a darker side she never knew about. This is why communication matters, guys. Before things get worse, Gerald suddenly grabs his chest. All that excitement and the pill hit him hard. He collapses right on top of Jesse. She screams, thinking he's still acting, but his body goes limp. She struggles and finally pushes him off the bed. Gerald hits the floor with a heavy thump. He's dead. Now Jesse is stuck, handcuffed to a bed in the middle of nowhere with her dead husband on the floor. Her phone is downstairs. The nearest neighbor is miles away. She screams for help, but her voice just disappears into the woods. Hours pass. Then she hears movement downstairs. Something is walking around. Jesse calls out, hoping it's a neighbor. But that same dog walks in through the open door they forgot to close. Oh look, the dinner guest has arrived. The dog sniffs around and notices Gerald's body. Before Jesse can do anything, the dog takes a big bite out of Gerald's arm. Jesse screams, but she's helpless. The dog eats some of her dead husband's arm. Then something strange happens. Gerald suddenly sits up and stands next to the bed, talking to her. But his body is still on the floor. This Gerald is a hallucination representing all her negative thoughts. He starts listing all the ways their marriage failed. He reminds her of a party where he told an inappropriate joke in front of clients. Jesse heard it but never said anything to him about it. Hallucination Gerald tells her that's her problem. She never stands up for herself. He tells her nobody will save her and she'll die from dehydration. Another figure appears beside the bed, another version of Jesse, representing her will to survive. She tells Jesse to ignore Gerald's negativity. The two hallucinations argue, like a debate in her mind. The confident Jesse reminds her about the water glass Gerald left on the shelf. Real Jesse reaches up and barely grabs it. But she can't tilt it to her mouth because her arms are stretched out. The water just spills. Then she gets creative. She grabs the price tag from the shelf and rolls it into a straw, and manages to sip some water through it. Not much, but enough to survive a bit longer. Night falls completely, and the room becomes pitch black. Jesse drifts in and out of consciousness from exhaustion and stress. The dog that was sleeping next to her bed suddenly wakes up, looks at something with frightened eyes, and runs out of the house scared. The dog's barking outside wakes her up. She has a terrible feeling that someone else is in the room with her. In the far corner of the room, she can barely make out a tall figure, standing still and silent. As her eyes slowly adjust to the darkness, she sees more disturbing details. It's a man, but he looks severely deformed. His head is enormous and strangely misshapen. His hands are huge, hanging at his sides. He's wearing a long dark coat, just staring directly at her without moving. Jesse's voice trembles as she asks who he is. The figure slowly walks closer until he's standing right at the foot of the bed. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a dirty canvas bag. He opens it wide and shows Jesse what is inside. The bag is filled with human bones and pieces of jewelry, all trophies taken from dead people. Jessie squeezes her eyes shut tight, telling herself over and over that this cannot be real. She must be hallucinating again from the stress. Hallucination Gerald appears again and tells her that the man is real and says his name is Moonlight Man. When she finally opens her eyes, he's not there. Gerald starts calling Jessie Mouse over and over again. That specific nickname triggers something buried deep in her memory, a terrible trauma she's been trying to forget for decades. This takes Jessie back to when she was just 12. Her family went to a lake house to watch a rare solar eclipse. Young Jessie sat outside with her stepfather Tom on a bench. Tom asked her to sit on his lap, just like she used to when she was little. As the eclipse slowly began and darkness covered the bright sky, Tom did something unforgivable. He violated his stepdaughter right there on that bench. This single traumatic moment would go on to shape and damage the rest of Jessie's life. Back in the present, both hallucinations explain how that moment destroyed everything. Tom manipulated young Jessie into staying silent by telling her that speaking up would destroy the family. She agreed to keep it secret. From then on, she learned to bury her problems instead of facing them. She married Gerald, who was just as controlling as Tom. Whenever he did something wrong, she stayed quiet. She'd been trapped her whole life, first by her father's silence, then by Gerald's control. These weren't her first handcuffs. Gerald keeps taunting her, saying the Moonlight Man will return when darkness comes again. He points at the footprint on the floor, proving the man was real. Jessie starts losing hope. Then, young Jessie appears again. She reminds adult Jessie of dinner after the eclipse. Young Jessie sat silent, tense. When her mother asked if she had a good time with Tom, Jessie squeezed her glass too hard, shattering it and cutting deep into her palm. This memory gives adult Jessie an idea. She looks at the water glass on the shelf above her. If she breaks it, she can use a sharp piece to cut deep into her wrist. Cutting through the skin will make her hand slim enough to slip through the handcuff. It's horrifying, but it's her only chance. Hallucination Jessie tells her to visualize the plan carefully. Once she starts, there's no going back. Real Jessie takes a deep breath and knocks the glass off the shelf. It shatters on her hand. She picks up the sharpest piece and wedges it into the shelf crack. Then she positions her wrist against the edge and starts cutting. Blood starts flowing from the cut. The pain is unbearable, but she forces herself to keep going. She pulls her hand hard, and the metal digs deeper into her flesh. Her skin starts tearing painfully as she keeps pulling. Jessie screams but doesn't stop. Finally, the handcuff slides over her ruined hand. She's now free from one cuff. With one hand free, Jessie drags the bed toward the nightstand, trying to reach her phone, but it's dead, shocking absolutely no one. Then she drags the bed to the dresser on the other side, where Gerald left the handcuff keys. It takes all her remaining strength, but she gets close enough to reach them. She grabs the keys with her bloodied hand and unlocks her other wrist with her mouth. Both hands are finally free after more than 30 hours. She bandages her hand and tries to grab the car keys. But too weak from blood loss, she collapses to the floor and passes out. When Jessie eventually wakes up, it's dark outside once again. That dog has returned to the house and is now trying to eat her wounded hand. This dog has zero chill. She quickly pushes the dog away from her. With no other choice, she forces herself to stand up, despite the overwhelming pain shooting through her entire body. She grabs the car keys from the dresser with her good hand. The dog suddenly stops and starts growling, staring intently at something in the dark hallway. Then it runs and hides in the bathroom. Jessie knows what that means. Slowly, she steps toward the hallway and sees the same strange man at the far end. Terrified, Jessie starts walking toward him anyway, step by step, repeating to herself that he's only made of moonlight. He's not real. He can't hurt her. As she gets closer, she pulls off her wedding ring and drops it into his bag of trophies. The Moonlight Man stays still, letting her walk past toward the door. Jessie makes it outside to the car, starts the engine, and drives away as fast as she can down the dark road, finally escaping this nightmare house. But she's lost way too much blood over the past day and a half. Her vision blurs, and she keeps fading in and out of consciousness, desperately trying to stay awake and keep control of the car. She glances up at the rearview mirror. The Moonlight Man is sitting in her backseat, staring directly at her. He slowly leans forward, right next to her ear, and whispers "Mouse." Jessie loses control of the steering wheel. The car crashes hard into a tree at high speed. The impact is brutal, but at least the wrecked car ends up very close to another house nearby. The people living there hear the loud crash. They run outside with flashlights and find Jessie barely alive, stumbling out of the destroyed car. She waves weakly and whispers "Hi," before collapsing. Manners, even when you're literally dying. The neighbors immediately rescue her. 6 months later, Jessie has mostly recovered physically, though her hand remains scarred. She writes a letter to her 12-year-old self. She spent her whole life running from what her stepfather did during the eclipse. Then she married Gerald, who was just like him. Surviving his twisted game finally forced her to confront everything. She used Gerald's life insurance to start a foundation helping abuse victims of exploitation, so others know they're not alone. But one thing still haunts her. She has nightmares about the Moonlight Man every night. And her wedding ring was never found at the lake house. Then one morning, Jessie reads about a serial killer who was just arrested after a long manhunt. His name is Raymond Andrew Joubert. For over a year, he'd been breaking into small-town cemeteries at night, stealing jewelry from corpses. Then his crimes escalated, and he started taking body parts as trophies. Eventually, he began attacking living people in their own homes. The article explains he suffered from a rare medical condition called acromegaly that caused his bones to grow abnormally large and deformed. His head, hands, and feet were all oversized, giving him a monstrous appearance. Jessie stares at his photo in the newspaper. It's definitely him. The Moonlight Man was real. He was actually in that house with her that night. That explains why Gerald's face was so badly mutilated when they found his body. Raymond had been there collecting his trophies while she was helpless. He didn't kill Jessie only because he specifically preferred male victims. Her wedding ring is probably sitting in his collection somewhere right now. Jessie decides to go to the courthouse on the day of Raymond's hearing. She needs to see him one final time and face him directly. When Raymond is brought into the courtroom in chains, Jessie walks to him and stares at his deformed face. She suddenly sees her stepfather and Gerald in his face. But she's not afraid anymore. She looks Raymond directly in the eyes and says, "You're so much smaller than I remember." Absolute power move right there. By facing this real monster, she finally frees herself from the demons of her past. She walks confidently out of the courthouse. The eclipse that haunted her for decades is finally over. She's now free for the first time in her life. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.